Mr. President, I rise today because there are far too many women in America suffering in silence from postpartum depression, and it's time to let them know they are not alone. It is time to lift the veil of what some consider shame and secrecy. This condition is not their fault, and they can get help. The Melanie Blocker-Stokes Mothers Act would establish the first comprehensive legislation to assist new mothers suffering from postpartum depression and educate women about this disabling condition that affects 800,000 women each year. It would help provide support services to women suffering from postpartum depression and psychosis, and would also help educate mothers and their families about these conditions. In addition, it would support research into the causes, diagnosis, and treatments for postpartum depression and psychosis. It attacks postpartum depression on all fronts, with education, support, and research, so that new moms can feel supported and safe rather than scared and alone. We know, doctors and psychologists know, that there are all too many mothers in need who are suffering in silence, all too many mothers who are unaware of the condition and go without the treatment and support they so desperately need. I introduced this bill because I was inspired by the story of Mrs. Mary Jo Cody, the former First Lady of New Jersey, who publicly shared her struggle with postpartum depression. It was her courage and strength that helped change New Jersey's law, and now hopefully will help change our nation's law. But postpartum depression affects women all over this country, not just in my home state, and that is why I was proud to introduce this legislation with Senator Durbin and work with the support of Senator Kennedy. I saw the companion legislation of Representative Rush sail through the House, passing 382 to 3, and we were all set to pass this bill when one singular senator signaled his objection, essentially blocking the bill and the whole process ground to a halt. One senator's objections, and American women are left without relief and support from a disabling and often undiagnosed condition affecting as many as 1 in 5 new mothers experiencing symptoms. One senator's objections, and American women are left without a strong program to make sure they no longer have to suffer in silence and feel alone when faced with this difficult condition. One senator's objections, and American women are left with few places to turn when they show signs of depression, lose interest in friends and family, feel overwhelming sadness, or even have thoughts of harming the baby or themselves. Many new mothers sacrifice anything and everything to provide feelings of security and safety to their newborn child. It is our duty to provide the same level of security, safety, and support to new mothers in need. We were on our way to taking those steps when a single senator stepped in and blocked it from happening. For the millions of American women who have suffered or soon will suffer from postpartum depression, we need to pass this bill today. So, Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the Help Committee be discharged of S. 1375, that the Senate immediately proceed to S. 1375, that all after the enacting clause be stricken, and that an amendment at the desk consisting of the text of Subtitle D of Title I of S. 3297 be inserted in lieu thereof, that the amendment be considered and agreed to, the bill as amended be read a third time, passed, and the motions to reconsider be laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate.
Is there objection?
Mr. President, I object.
Senator Vino, objection is heard.
Mr. President, I assume my distinguished colleague from Wyoming is objecting on behalf of Idaho, is objecting on behalf of Senator Coburn.
Mr. President.
And I understand if that is the case. You know, I have a problem in that we have a process that has festered here where one person suddenly believes that they are the guardian of what is good and what is not. And I always get concerned when suddenly one person in an institution believes that they can use the powers that are reserved largely for the purposes of ensuring that something that they feel so passionate about or so strongly about and to protect the powers of the minority can be preserved, but then it gets abused. And hundreds of pieces of legislation get stopped by one senator. Now, I'm going to intend to continue to push this because I want mothers throughout this country to understand who is it that is blocking their way from having the type of access and help that is necessary to be able to ensure that, in fact, they don't have to go through these depressions alone. We have many stories across the landscape of the country of mothers who didn't know that they were having postpartum depression, and the consequences were that they thought about hurting their children and hurting themselves. We can do far better. When the House of Representatives passes this very same bill, and we changed it to accommodate our colleagues on the Republican side of the aisle in the Health Committee, but passed it 382 to 3. 382 to 3. The reality is that something is wrong when one senator believes that they can stop the progress on behalf of millions of women in this country. And I'm going to come to the floor and time again. I want American women to know who is the impediment to the opportunity for them to get the help they need. I want mothers to know who is the impediment to get the help they need. I want families to know who is the impediment to get the help they need. I want husbands to know who is the impediment to have their spouse get the help they need, and that is one senator. One senator. Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate recess subject to the call of the chair following the remarks of Senator Craig.
Is there objection? Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. President, I had another statement, but I see Senator Craig here, even though I know he objected to my request on behalf of someone else. I'm going to yield the floor and come back at a later time.